All right, let's call this meeting to order.
Oh, that's a visual.
Take two. And a roll call, please.
I'm in a meeting.
Mr. Flynn,
Okay, I'll tell you when I get up.
Mrs. Salee, here, Mrs. Smith,
Yeah, here.
You know, I'm here.
Mr. Evans.
Here,
Thumbs off, everybody.
is there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I do not believe there are any.
So, is there anybody that'd like to move?
I move.
I'll second.
Moved by Dora, second by Israel. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Flynn.
Yes.
Mrs. Salee. Yes. Mrs. Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Edwards.
Yes. We have approval of last month's board meeting, August 20th.
Approve those minutes.
second,
Moved by Israel, second by Jean. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flynn,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee. Yes. Mr. Edwards.
Yes. No public participation. Not today, if there's anything for us. No sponsored reports, you hear from Ed.
No, I did not today. I know that they're excited that the appeal has ended, with the House Supreme Court, and they're able to move on with building the new school here in the next year. They're gonna start, I believe, once winter is passed and starts to warm up, they're gonna start on the school. They've taken the issue for the new money off of the ballot as well. So good things are happening for them as our sponsor. There's nothing really major in terms of sponsorship going on right now, but
With some stuff coming up in October, right?
with the budget, yeah.
Oh, I actually have that done for approval tonight, so we're a little bit in the meeting.
Usually are. Yeah, no, it's a good meeting. We went to that meeting and wasn't very happy about the orange cards that everybody got. Because it wasn't good timing for Margaret, so. And there's a lot of bonds on there in renewals, so they thought that they would pull that bond, so. I thought that was probably a good idea. It's easier for people to put no on both of them other than just.
Is there gonna be much about the renewal so people understand that it's not new money and
They didn't.
are they?
I imagine they'll have something in the newspaper, an article or something to explain that, but they did not.
I've had some people ask about it after they saw that the bond was taken off. I didn't want people to misunderstand that the renewal is still need their vote.
Yeah, there wasn't much going on. They said that they're thinking about possibly purchasing their own van because they're gonna be needing it for a lot of things.
So we have an agreement on the agenda tonight, retroactive to the start of the school year. They have a young man who is handicapped, who it benefits them sometimes to use our van when it's not being used. And we're perfectly fine with that. So this agreement just protects those schools moving forward, allowing them to get that.
Other than that, we didn't have anything.
Okay.
So, does anybody have anything for our liaisons?
I did in terms of the legislative update, I copied, I'll just pass that down. Brian, what I wanted to ask, there were two things that I thought was the most relevant. One is the Religious Expression Days Act. And do we have a policy? I looked for a policy. They said we're supposed to have a policy. What is the policy number? I couldn't find
So
it.
that's one of the policies that I've asked Amy's office to draft for us, that in addition to a standalone cell phone policy. And they were still looking into more information they had not
Okay,
come up with.
so
a
we
draft.
don't have that policy, because I didn't see anything in our policies on.
But I believe it does say that it's supposed to be in effect in October.
That's what I
They
thought.
know this, and
Okay,
I was hoping to get something before this board meeting, but they have not completed that yet.
Okay.
So we'll have to vote on that in October.
Okay. The second thing was the fraud reporting and Kelsey took care of that for us. And do we have AEDs? That was the other thing on the legal update. Where are they
Yeah, we
located?
have one right here outside in the hallway, and then we also have one downstairs by the kitchen.
Okay, very good. That's all I
And the
know.
nurse checks those from time to time to make sure the batteries are still good and the pads are not outdated.
We replaced the pads pretty recently, actually.
Okay,
Thank you. Anybody else? Nope. All right, well, moving on to treasurer's report.
All that in advance, if it's a little long tonight. All right, so first item on the list is just informational items. I wanted to go over our student wellness and success funds and our disadvantaged people impact aid plans. If you recall, these are general fund money, but they are earmarked for specific uses. They do require specific tracking and reporting at the end of the fiscal year. So I want to give an update. As you remember, last year we did some extensive planning with student wellness and success funds because we had a lot from prior years. I've been going back almost 5 or 6 years. And it had to all be spent up through fiscal year 24, up through last year's by this upcoming June. So I just want to give you an update on where we're at. We are on track to get all of that money spent to not have any to pay back. So we have about $160,889.60 of fiscal year 24's funds remaining. So at the top, at the very first section, if you look over to the right under remaining and you go down to, you'll see that remaining amount for fiscal year 24. The amount below is what we're estimated to get. That's our anticipated allocation for the year. Our funding does tend to fluctuate, so that amount is not guaranteed. That'll move throughout the year for fiscal year 25, but as of right now, that's what we're anticipating getting. The bottom section shows what I anticipate us spending, which is a total of about $280,000. So we will get all of the remaining fiscal year 24 funds spent, and we will start to break into fiscal year 25. We do not have to have all of this year's funding spent by June. We get through next year for that. There is the new requirement with the fiscal year 24 and 25 that 50% has to go toward mental health. So for us, that includes Carrie and Karin, our licensed social workers, Leslie Gaynor, our guidance counselor, and then Leslie also implements the ROCKS program. So those are the things that we're dedicating toward mental health. We should be okay to meet that 50% benchmark. I will continue to monitor it and update you throughout the year.
remind me what ROCKS stands for.
I don't know.
It's
It's a program for girls,
yeah, for like empowerment,
empowering girls and
just helping them to have more belief in themselves.
like self-esteem and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
So the next 2 pages then are the actual plans, so they just kind of outline where we're spending those funds. You do have to have partners involved. And it's the same for the disadvantaged people impact aid. There's not really any new expenses that weren't on there last year. We did have a committee meeting for our Stronger Connections grant planning and some Title IV planning, and then I brought these to the meeting as well. We tried to bring in a really wide variety of stakeholders. So we had teacher representation, administrative representation, PBIS representation. Karin was there. We invited in Sandusky Family Health Services. School nurse was invited, but she's not here on Mondays, so that didn't work out. The resource officer sat in on the meeting, so tried to bring in a lot of different stakeholders. Ryan technically is part of the Erie County Essex.
Children first.
So he marked that box as well, which was great, but did offer the opportunity for feedback, laid out the plans, explained some of the expenses, and just let everybody know that if they come up with anything that they'd like to pursue, just to bring it to my attention and we can discuss it further. Are there any questions over that? The final page is actually an update I received today, or yesterday, sorry, from Vista Bank on our rates. So they have locked us in, I believe, at 5% through July. And that is going down slightly. It's gonna lower to 4.75 through November 19th. And then she let me know that we should anticipate it lowering throughout the year until it comes to their chart below. Like we'll end up at that rate, which right now our balance is greater than 500,000. With this in mind, we will continue to balance investing our funds to get the most out of the interest rate, because Star Ohio's current APY is 5.54%, while still continuing to maintain our relationship with Civista. I don't have any intention of just draining that account. But I will balance probably transferring some more of our funds to continue to utilize the higher interest rate, while also maintaining a relationship with our local bank and getting their support. And so it'll be a balancing act. I do anticipate moving more funds, but I will do so in the correct manner. Any questions over that? Next, we have our normal financial packet. So we can go ahead and skip past the minutes. First, we have our cash reconciliations. You can see we ended the month of August with $10,701,958.36. Following this, I have the cash summary report, and I actually condensed it down to just our fiscal year 24 grants. If you look about if you go all the way to the right and then come 3 left, that's the fund balance. So that just shows that we've spent the grant funds and we have all of our project cash requests in. So we've been reimbursed for all of fiscal year 24 expenses. I have all of our final expenditure reports, which are due September 30th. Those are all submitted. And it just shows the balances are all zeroed out, and now we're into our fiscal year 25 grant funds. Next, we have our disbursement summary. There wasn't anything that I thought was too out of the ordinary. I wanted to remind you, 3 up from the bottom with vendor communications. Those were our radios. We had approved using just a little bit of the general fund to supplement the safety grant, what the safety grant didn't cover. But mostly those were paid for out of our safety grant. I didn't have anything that I thought needed pointed out on the second page. On the third page, there's a large expense to X-Tech Partners at the top. That was the student Chromebooks that we paid for out of ESSER. Just wanted to remind you of that. Are there any other items that you wanted to review or had any questions about? Next, we have our outstanding disbursement summary. We are caught up into this fiscal year, no outstanding disbursements from last fiscal year. And next, we have our monthly spreadsheet. So tonight we'll be approving appropriations and spending plan, as well as our annual budget, and you'll see kind of how those numbers relate to this chart. So the bottom left section, you'll see total general fund expenses, $4,532,525. You'll see that on the appropriations. That was the general fund sheet that I had submitted. That was one of the detailed appropriations that I had submitted, probably the longest one by far. The top left, the revenue, that will also match up with the spending plan summary that you'll see. I have to do both the general fund expenses and revenue, so we'll also be approving that. We are anticipating quite a bit of an increase in what we've anticipated in the past for interest. Now that we're investing in Star Ohio, we're getting these higher interest rates, so that is a big positive. For capital outlay in the bottom left category, you'll see the total budget for the year is the $79,190. That includes our parking lot and a $35,000 contingency, just in case. In years past, I've done $25,000, but just with inflation and with the market, I felt like we should increase that a little bit just to keep that comfortable.
Are people happy with the parking lot?
I think everybody seems really happy.
It's nice.
Gotten compliments on it, and I actually thought the blocks turned out nicely. I didn't think they looked bad at all.
It's nice for Margaretta too, you just walk right down there.
It was done by their
Football field.
in time for the football game too. That was good. Everything ended up smooth. That's great. Any questions over the spreadsheet? Okay. Next, I've got our September payment. As well as I included the summaries for August, September, and July, just so we could kind of compare our projections. September and August are about $11 apart, I believe, so they're practically identical. It's a little bit lower than July. July was about 9,000 higher, but we're sitting with very similar data as you know through the summer. We'll start to see a little bit more accurate payments as we get into this year's data, as October pulls from our actual September data. So that will give us maybe a little bit clearer picture. Any questions over the monthly payment? Next, voting item D, I had touched on this in my email. This is to reimburse Eileen Wiedenheft for her background check. So the resolution reads, whereas the current board approved background check policy for employees requires employees to obtain the background check through the school, or the employee would be required to cover the costs at employee expense. Whereas Eileen Wiedenheft is the only employee trained to use the background check equipment for the school. Whereas Eileen Wiedenheft must obtain an updated BCI check to maintain compliance with law and policy. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors approves a reimbursement in the amount of $32.50 to Eileen Wiedenheft for the cost of a BCI check upon the submission of a receipt reflecting the amount paid. Our next item is the next item in your paperwork. This is our final ARP ESSER budget. These are our final numbers. They've been submitted. We did spend down to the cent. Our ESSER funds are officially gone. We had discussed this pretty in depth. Are there any questions over the ESSER budget? Our biggest final expense was doing the retention bonus, and that's kind of what got us down, and now they're. So item E is resolved that the Board of Directors approves the final ARP ESSER budget as presented. Item F, I had sent these contracts, but in an attempt to somewhat save paper, I did only bring the 2 copies instead of copying them for everyone, but I submitted them via email on Thursday for your review. So item F is resolved that the Board of Directors approves the professional services agreement with PT Services Rehabilitation Inc. as presented and authorizes the treasurer to enter into the agreement as presented. Item G, resolved that the Board of Directors approves the Townsend Community Schools Student Wellness and Success Funds and Disadvantaged People Impact Aid Fund plans for the 2024-2025 school year as presented. Item H is resolved that the Board of Directors approves the client agreement with Strategic Management Solutions for consulting services pursuant to the schools and libraries cybersecurity pilot as presented. And then our next item in your paperwork is that our spending plan summaries are, this is our revenue, anticipation, our general fund revenue. So that at the very bottom left, that $5,739,097, you see that was the amount on our board spreadsheet, the total anticipated revenue. So this is just a breakdown of where we're anticipating that to come from. So we've got our interest income, and you'll see that I was a little cautious with it. July and August, we were over 40,000, and I've lowered it to 30,000. That's just us being fiscally cautious. If a rate would suddenly lower, I mean, interest rates are never guaranteed, so I wanted to be cautious there. I break down the restricted funding by career tech funds, disadvantaged pupil impact aid funds, English language learner funds, student wellness funds. That's in the top right. And then the bottom is the unrestricted funds. That's our base costs, our special education, our facilities, our paybacks, our equity supplement. We do get casino funds twice a year. And then we have the adjustments. And that brings us to our total. Are there any questions over our spending plan summary?
That August casino fund looks better with
The comma,
yeah, with the point zeros, with the, yeah.
sorry,
I'm just kidding.
I will be mindful. Next is my fiscal year 25 appropriation all funds summary. So this gives you a breakdown of salaries and benefits out of the general fund, out of our federal grants, out of our cafeteria fund. It anticipates spending out of our scholarship fund, out of our state and local grants. So we do get some communication funds, which typically just go toward our internet. It's not a lot of money per year, but we do get a little bit. Breaks it down to purchase services, supplies, capital outlay. I did put some money in 900s, which isn't typical. That's for transfers. I do anticipate having to cover some for the cafeteria fund. This is our first year having full salary and benefits in there. We've been paying for Cindy Orshowski out of ESSER. So this will be kind of our first year, and it's also our first year with the new program, which you may see.
I think it's CP, Community Eligibility Proficiency, CP.
Which is supposed to be more reimbursement than what we were previously getting, but again, I'm not sure what quite to anticipate, so we'll monitor that as the year goes on. I do anticipate possibly having to transfer funds at the end of the year. This year will probably give us a better picture moving into years forward. So total all funds, we've got $5,841,001. And then the following are the breakdowns. These are where I pull the budget numbers from. I know the codes are kind of a lot. For example, the very top one, the 001 1130 111, that is teacher salaries for general education. The one right below it, 1247, that's teacher salaries for special education. So those are just, if you have any questions over any specifically that you were curious about, I know under the purchase services, I do kind of give a little bit more description. I kind of categorize them. I try to a little bit with the 500, the supplies as well. But I just, the general fund and then our federal grants, they make up a very large portion of our overall budget. So those are the two I presented in great detail. I can provide the other ones as well. I can provide the cafeteria, the scholarship fund, the state and local funds as well. But these were the main ones that I wanted to review and just see if anybody had any questions over where I pull these numbers from. I look at past year's spending. I look at anything new that's coming up that we're aware of. We did allow for some, requisition requests for the alternate locations. Hey, what do you need? What are you looking to get this year? What kind of budget can we give you? That kind of thing. Same thing with PBIS. We look at, okay, this is what budget you have. What are you looking to spend? So we've done some things with the PBIS store already. Any questions?
That was really helpful,
Good.
really helpful.
I hoped it
This was
wasn't
good.
too much. I thought including some of the summarization would kind of clarify it a little bit, and then I also like to color code everything. I did not print it in color for money purposes.
No, but it was nice.
But I sent it in my email, I thought it might be helpful, it helps me to track what I'm looking at, so I thought you may appreciate that. And so that's item I, resolved that the board of directors approves the fiscal year 2025 appropriations and spending plan of the general fund at $4,532,525. Total all funds $5,841,001. And then we have our community school annual budget. So this just puts our budget in the format that we submit to the ODE. It provides us slightly different details on the second page in terms of what we're anticipating staff-wide, what we currently have. It asks for our projected debt and to break down the purchase services a little bit into specific categories. The total at the bottom of the budget on the front page in the bottom right is $5,831,002. The 2 is just the difference in how the 2 sheets rounded, but we're right on target. We're 10,000 less, but there's a note at the bottom about the 10,000 we have budgeted in 900s for transfers to the cafeteria account. They did not have 900 on their sheet, and I wanted to use the format that they specifically requested, but I didn't want to leave that out as well, so I made sure to at least note it. So that is item J, resolved that the board of directors approves the community school annual budget for fiscal year 25 as presented. Are there any questions?
You're on it.
I didn't take as long as I thought it would.
All that to digest. They have anything they'd like to say about it, or we'll just like to move?
Numbers.
No, I commend you, Fred, was very
I
understandable.
felt like I followed it well, like, seriously.
That was my goal.
Good job.
I love it. Thank you so much.
I move we approve items A through J of the treasurer's report.
Second.
Moved by Jean, second by Dora.
I was waiting for that. Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee. Yes. Mr. Edwards.
Ryan, you're on.
Thank you. Always tough to follow. To start off with, let's take a look at the enrollment data. The number I sent you over the weekend in our weekly email was over 500. We did have to have our first wave of withdrawals yesterday because we had students that did hit the 72 consecutive hour mark. This happens every September after about 3 weeks of school, where we have students that no matter what we do to try to re-engage them, we cannot get them re-engaged. So we had probably close to 30 students that we did have to withdraw in that first wave, and that's typically the largest number that get withdrawn at a given time throughout the school year. So our enrollment updated here is 486 students. You can see here the breakdown and the sheet in your folder. Our largest area is currently Norwalk with 73 students, and then we have Fremont with 65 students. And we have Sandusky coming in third with 47, followed by Bellevue with 39. We are slowly getting some enrollments in Lorraine County, which is good. I was there today. I've been going up there on Tuesdays to just oversee and make sure things are running smoothly. We had 6 students there today, which is decent. And hopefully in time that continues to grow. Now, Elyria has the Pioneer Middle School Alternative Program there for some of their students. And I ran into their director last week, and she had asked me to come talk to their students and just make them aware of our program because they're quite similar. So it would be a smooth transition from junior high to high school if they would choose our program. So I went and talked to their students today. I believe they had 10 students there in that program at the time, and just shared Townsend, and they seemed pretty receptive and interested in our program. And I took some of them down and showed them where our classrooms were. So there's potential there for some of those students to plug into Townsend down the road. And I just think that, you know, the word is slowly getting out there more about Townsend, and as that happens in Lorraine County, I think we're going to continue to see some more referrals come our way. Friday, I was at Lorraine County ESC. We had a leadership roundtable event with various schools there. You got superintendents, you have principals, you have other administrators, you know, a variety of people to just kind of brainstorm and network. And it was very productive. It also gave us a chance to kind of shine some light on Townsend too, and make others aware of the option that is there in Lorraine County. So hopefully in time we continue to see that growth in Lorraine County. You know, we can see that Fremont is the area where we've had the biggest decline over the last year, because a year ago we had 89 students from Fremont, and we currently have 65. And we know that, you know, there's more options currently for students than there were a year ago in Fremont, and that is possibly having some impact on that number.
Do you identify any particular needs in terms of the Lorraine site that we need to be aware of as a board, or in terms of advertising or community connections or that kind of thing?
No, I think it's just something we continue word of mouth, continue to network and communicate. And, you know, we go to quite a bit of PD in Lorraine County with ESC and with the state sport team. So it's just a matter of time until we can continue to get some more referrals.
I do think we could discuss with Karin, who still is, has that community liaison supplement, maybe focusing some initial energy on that area, just as we're starting out and, you know, getting the word out, maybe meeting with like probation officers or things like that.
That's what I was.
I think we could maybe focus her energies out that way to begin the year. I think that would maybe be effective, so that's a good conversation.
And I think I shared a week ago in our my weekly email, I had gone down to Columbus for that Ohio Kids Summit. It was the first one that Governor DeWine's put on, and they had the area or the Family and Children's Services from all 88 counties there. So there were groups from all 88 counties. There's over 900 people there. It's a big event. And when they divided up groups for the afternoon to have breakout sessions, it just so happened that the 6 counties we serve were all in the same room. The room I was in had Erie County, Huron, Sandusky, Seneca, Lorraine, and Ottawa County. By chance, you know, and it was a great opportunity. I took the opportunity to share about Townsend, just a reminder, because it was all about networking and helping kids, especially kids at risk and kids in foster care. So it was a great opportunity to share that. The table at Lorraine County said, "Oh, we didn't even know you existed there at Lorraine Community College." So it opened some eyes there. There were several others in the room that we already have networked with, you know, probation officers and so forth, judges. But it was just it was a great opportunity to meet with the right people, the right counties, and just get that opportunity again to share Townsend with others.
When you talk about Lorraine, do you just think of Lorraine as Lorraine City Schools, or are we talking the county, all the other,
The county, yeah.
as a whole? Okay, that's, no, I'm just.
So it'll be interesting in the months to come to see where these numbers go, see where there's growth. But again, getting back to our numbers here, we have 486 students right now. Becky still has some enrollment still coming in, which is good. Hopefully we can just keep all of our students active so that we don't have to draw too many more. We did finish last school year with 110 graduates. We had some right before first day of school, which got us up to 110, which is more than last year. I think last year we had 104 graduates. It was good to see that increase. We are already at, I put 2 here, but I think we are at 4 actually. Yeah, because there's 4 up for approval tonight. We're at 3, I'm sorry, 3 graduates, because I approved 1 late this afternoon. Okay, any questions on the enrollment data? All right, let's turn to the state report card that came out Friday. So in your folder is this page in color here. I'm very pleased to share that we had another very strong report card this year. The achievement component, which factors in like our end of course test scores, was meet standards. But when you look at the other 3 main categories, we were exceed standards in all 3 of those. So progress is looking at the growth from the STAR testing data in math and reading. So we were exceeds standards in progress. Gap closing is looking at the growth amongst the different subgroups that you have, which was exceeds standards. And then finally, the graduation rate was also exceeds standards. When you look at the breakdown of the different subgroups for graduation, the 4-year and the 5-year were both meet standards, but then the 6-year, 7-year, 8-year, and combined ratings were all exceed standards. And again, keep in mind, our kids are coming in a lot of times 1 or 2 years deficient. So sometimes it's a little bit harder to hit the 4-year and the 5-year rating in terms of exceed standards there. But if you look at year 6 and beyond, we were exceed standards. Any questions on the state report card?
Congratulations.
Good work. Yes, team effort. Everybody plays a part. Okay, so that kind of takes us to item C there, which is a discussion about our goals as a school and also school board goals. So we have our 4 goals from the past year, which are on the front of our field agenda. We've referred to throughout this past year here, focusing on growing in English and math proficiency, working towards implementing explicit vocabulary instruction, which is still something we're working on. Increasing enrollment, always trying to keep our enrollment up and hopefully growing there. We looked at trying to implement a mentoring plan with the students. We've done some of that with Josh Priest coming in from the state support team and talking to us about mentoring students. Also, we had a fantastic speaker on Monday. Galen Elmore came in. He's a nationally known speaker. A few months ago, he was at Ehovi, and the staff really enjoyed him coming and speaking to us. So he's gone through a lot. He's gone through, when he was younger, he went through foster care. He was abused. He had a very challenging life that he went through. But by the support of the team around him, all the people that were in his corner, that stood for him, he is the man he is today, has come through to be a success story. He went on to play football at the University of Minnesota, the Golden Gophers, and now he shares his story with others so he can help. And his focus is really on taking these students. He's
students who are broken, who are at risk, and just providing that caring, being that caring person for them so that they feel that sense of belonging. And he thinks that's what got him through the difficult times. It's those people who stood up for him, who were there for him to feel like he had value and he belonged. So it was a really powerful message. He was fantastic. He's gonna come back in January again. And maybe if anybody's available that day, I'll let you know ahead of time and you can join us for the second meeting with him. And we had approved him coming here a while ago. Remember which funds we used? Title II,
Improving instruction, so. A lot of our PD, a lot of our tuition reimbursement.
So
Yeah.
when we look at these goals, Ryan had reminded me about the information he had given us in August. If we look at goal 1, we wanted to increase the competency by 2%. And based on the information that he gave us, we had almost a year increase in grade level in math and in reading. And when we look at the increase of competency, it went from the spring of 2023 at 16.4% competent to an overall competency of 25.5%. So it definitely exceeded the goals that we had. For language arts, in September of 2023, we were at 24% competency, and our overall competency at the end of the year 24 was 38.9 competency. So I think our staff and our students are really to be commended for that kind of an increase. We've not seen that kind of increase that I can ever remember. I mean, that's really fantastic. And I don't know if it was, what would be nice is to be able to pinpoint one specific thing, but I'm sure it's the continuing education, the emphasis in staff meetings, the support people that we, have added and so forth. But I thought that was really good. And Ryan's already talked about the goal 2 in terms of increasing enrollment. We necessarily did not meet that goal. But when we diversify the equitable access to effective educators, we as a board have made a lot of decisions to support student access to services at all of the sites. And that has become very important. So I feel the board can be commended for supporting those services to allow that to happen. Then when we look at goal 3, we know that the student wellness is being addressed in many ways. And I really think, again, the services that we're providing are really, really good. And we also have, I think, Karen to thank for both goal 3 and 4, in addition to everybody else, but having that position to be able to engage parents and get things going with families and that kind of thing. It just really has been very, very positive. So on the whole, when we look at the goals that we had set, other than the enrollment issue, which kept its own, we didn't lose ground. I think the staff and the board can feel good about what has been accomplished there. So as we contemplate what direction we want to head, I think what Ryan intends, and I don't want to speak for you, Ryan, but if we look at this service delivery agreement here, we see some additional direction for possible goals. Now, the SST, the state support team, has certain goals that they are supporting, but Townsend themselves, the bottom goals are for us. You see that We have, providing the system, providing support in system coaching, including guidance and instructional coaching. Developing, support for students at all different levels that I had. When I was in education, we didn't use the term MTSS, but even though we had the multi-tier support system, that was more regarded as intervention assistance. But it's the same thing, basically. So we're providing that. So if we think about the goals that we have, we as a board might want to just adopt the goals that we have in this plan as well as the one plan, which you have submitted to us. Now, I don't know what recommendation you have, Ryan, as far as recommendations to us as board members, or how you'd like us to proceed.
Yeah, I don't wanna tell the board exactly what, your the goal should look like, but I think it's important that whatever goals that we set align with schools' goals in terms of that one plan and support that the state support team's gonna provide us in connection to those one plan goals, which they also help us develop our one plan as well.
Yeah.
So I would say, continuing to focus on improvement in literacy and math are two things that are important. Continuing to focus on strategies that help improve attendance are important. PBIS is one strategy that we use to do things like incentives. We have a quarterly incentive for students to reward those who've had good attendance, that have completed a certain amount of units, which 60 is the number right now for that had good behavior. So we can try to have a fun day where we celebrate and recognize the kids that achieve those goals. So it's a good incentive. And there's charts too. The teachers have charts with students' name on them, and they color in the chart, like for the units, they color them in so they can see as they're progressing towards 60 units completed that they're getting close as they go through the quarter.
So Ken, I don't know how you would choose to proceed, but if you'd like, we could draft. I'd be happy to volunteer to work with Ryan and you on drafting, developing a draft of goals, and then we could submit it to the board members and get ideas from them, and then bring it to our next board meeting. Yeah.
I mean, I think overall, looking at our goals and what's been over the last year, we're definitely given a much more of a quality education, which we wanted to really achieve. And I mean, we can't look at the end of we didn't raise our student, as much as we wanted to, but it's much more quality than what it was.
Absolutely.
So we're not trying to outgrow a problem like.
Yeah.
Been in the past.
And we graduated 110 kids.
I know.
I mean, that's great.
And we're helping them to have an idea of what the next steps are beyond that high school diploma too. It's not just about get your high school diploma, it's about earn your high school diploma, show growth along the way, and then have an idea of what's next. And that's where, our Reach Success, staff comes into play in helping them to make those connections, to have those conversations, to talk to them about what do you want to do next, and getting them in touch with the right people. And our teachers do some of that too.
Okay. So I'd like to see, me thinking out loud. I'd like to see this streamlined streamline meaning, right? So this is a lot to read, right? So I just think of like a quick, focus, excellence, things like that, right? So as Townsend, so we have these phrases, right, that are our goals, but not only the goals as a board, but it comes from the top down, right? So if you can somehow, so if we say just about just being present, we'll just say being present, right? How does a student, how do you involve them in being present, right? How do what they do on a day-to-day basis, whether it's at home or or at home or in the building, like how. Explain to them what their part is in the success, right? Cause then we're successful, they're successful, you know what I mean? I just think of an organization. And I just feel like it's so much when it's from the top down and everybody's goals are the same and you realize. Where you fit into that puzzle.
Yeah,
Does that make sense to everybody?
Oh,
You know what
yeah.
I mean, so
yeah,
it's,
I
you
think
know,
that's good.
knowing that this is. It's not the board's goals. But it's the town's goals,
It's Townsend's goal.
right? And these are what we wanna do, but you know, and it's, you know, I just think of like. Just signage, like focus, like, okay, like this is a goal, go
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
however you want.
So everybody can be engaged.
Everybody
in-
understands that,
Yeah.
yes, the board has goals, but then also, what do you need, like, so then we'll. Then if everybody's thinking, if
Mhm.
everybody's trying, if everybody's
Yeah.
doing their part. And they need something, you know, maybe it's just, I don't know, it's just,
No, I think that's good.
Is
And,
everybody
and-
buying in?
yeah,
right.
and Ryan, had you presented anything like that already to the staff? And to the students in your team meetings or things like that?
Creating goals, you mean, or?
Not creating these goals, but just those kinds of focus sorts of things based on the one plan and.
We've talked about the one plan and.
Okay.
What, that's.
But that may be helpful, not just to us in terms of a reminder or engaging students, but also to staff. To remind them what they're about, you
What
know,
are we really?
what are, yeah,
This is
yeah,
what
yeah,
we're
yeah.
looking for, and this is where
Good,
I fit into this goal, or I can help with that, or whether it's with board. You know, administrative, whatever, whoever, it's Townsend's goals,
yeah.
so,
Let us work on that and then you're the go-to guy.
yeah, I know, I just gave myself.
Alright. You heard that.
Very good discussion. So, yeah, we'll continue to work on that over the next month. One more thing under the information items, I just want to look ahead a little bit. So next month, we will still be at 7 o'clock PM. But then November is when we have designated to switch over to 4 PM through the winter. I do want to ask for consideration in January, to consider moving that meeting to a 7 o'clock. The December, it just so happens, December and January board meetings, both of those evenings, this is on a personal request. Both of those evenings, Monroe Hills boys play home, so the only practice slot is the early slot. I'm willing to not practice the December date and continue to have the 4 PM because we will play for a couple of days after that. But the January one, we have a game shortly after that date, so I would like to get practice in basketball wise for that. So I'm asking, now I gotta look up the date, but the third Tuesday in January, if we could consider 7 o'clock start date, that would allow me to get the team in for a practice. Then it's the 21st.
Is there, just knowing that driving at night for some of the board members is difficult when it's dark. Is there another night that we could keep it at 4 o'clock,
Possibly, yeah. we'd have
like that Monday or
to
something?
check. Let us real quick. See. There a night of the week that's bad. Like Wednesday night, let's do
Oh.
you, right?
I can, not at 4 o'clock, it'd be fine.
20th is Martin Luther King Day. I could do 4 o'clock on the 22nd. That's Wednesday.
Yeah, that's okay.
If that
That'd be
sounds better,
nice, Jackie.
so that'd be better than the 7 o'clock.
You could make a note to maybe post the notice on the website early or something, just so you know, have the information out there.
Is that okay with you, Kim?
Yeah. It's January's. I'm dodging basketball games now.
So is it okay if we add that under new business as item E, because we have voted on the calendar previously? So item E, just looking ahead here would be to a recommendation to move the January board meeting to Wednesday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. So going through the new business, then we have a resolution to approve the awarding of high school diplomas for the following students upon successful completion of the graduation requirements as set forth by the state of Ohio. As you can see there, we have some who earned their diploma for the 23-24 school year, and then 3 for the 24-25 school year. Item B is a resolution to approve a school band use agreement with Margaret Local Schools, permitting Margaret to use the Townsend handicap van as needed. And this resolution is retroactive to the start of the school year. Basically, they will let me know when they need to use it, whether it's for a band or the students is a band or academic challenge or whatever it might be. And then if it's okay and there's no conflicts, they'll use our van. They will refuel the gas tank to the level that it was when they left, though, just as kind of like a compensation. Item C is a resolution to approve the renewal of youth science for aptitude and career discovery at a discounted rate of $2,082.50 for the 2024-25 school year in partnership with North Point ESC as presented. And item D is a recommendation to approve a revised memorandum of understanding with Reach Success for the position of career coach for the 24-25 school year at $4,800 per month as presented. So this is a slight increase from the original agreement that we had with them for this position. If you remember, we had somebody in the spring and that person did not work out. They had to go back to the drawing board this summer, search. They weren't finding quality candidates, and they felt that the position needed to be upped a little bit to get a quality person in there. The person that was hired, Dana Pat, is very impressive. She's a go-getter, very she's going to do good things. She's going to be work really well with her students. But they verbally ran this by me and said, "Do you think we can up and pay a little bit?" And I said, "Yes, I think we can probably do that, but I do have to bring it to the board for approval." And I told her that. So that's what we're doing tonight. I believe the original amount, I believe, was $4,200 a month, and we are looking at increasing that to $4,800 a month for those services with Reach Success. And again, this position is being paid through student wellness funds currently. And then item E is, of course, the recommendation to move the January board meeting to Wednesday, January 22nd at 4 p.m. Final recommendation.
All right, hearing this, do we have anybody that would like to move the superintendent's report?
I'll second.
Have any discussion? Hearing none, then roll.
Mr. Cuomo,
Yes.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mrs. Salee,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Evans.
Yes. This time, do we have any reason to be going into executive session? No. None? Anybody like to move for adjournment?
I'll move.
I second. There you go, Jackie, get in there.
All in favor?
Aye.